What's up, guys? It's Chelsea Renee, and you are listening to Hot Girls Heal. I'm a therapist, a life coach, and a girl who's out here just trying to get it together. Every Thursday, I'll bring you unfiltered conversations on mental health, relationships, and insightful deep dives with amazing guests. I promise to be vulnerable, sharing my journey to help you feel less alone with yours. The truth is, guys, healing is not always linear. It's about getting real, doing the work, and laughing at ourselves along the way. Let's get after it. Hi, guys, and welcome back to another episode of Hot Girls Heal. I am so grateful that you are here today. This is episode number 9, and if you are an OG, you will know that I'm starting to come along. Okay, guys, if you are watching this on Spotify right now, I sort of have a new little makeshift podcast office, if you will. It's called my dining room, okay? But what I am learning is not only is the internet better in my dining room, but I can plug in my microphone. I actually played around with it today, so I hopefully somewhat know what I'm doing, and I'm trying to just teach myself like how to be a more efficient podcaster, right? And so always learning, always a work in progress, but I am here and I'm just so excited that you are joining me today. And so first of all, I just want to thank you so much for all of the support that you guys have given me with my pod. I shared on my Instagram stories this morning, and actually if you don't follow me, you should. I'm at Counselor Chels, and we're also on Instagram with the pod at Hot Girls Heal Pod. But I shared on my personal Instagram how basically I was so stressed out this week, and just all of the audio malfunctions from episode number 8, I know I should give myself grace because I'm learning, but it was just so frustrating to me because I had such a great conversation in our last episode and the quality was shit. And so I'm really trying to better myself, and I really care about this podcast, and I really want it to be just the best thing possible. We are up to over 825 total streams, which to me is very exciting, and I'm just hoping it can continue to grow. So again, thank you so much for being here and just supporting me. It means a lot, and it's hard because I live in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, and I am from Wisconsin. Okay, I'm actually from a town of 1,500, and so safe to say that all of this podcasting, social media stuff definitely is not the norm, and I still feel weird sometimes even just putting myself out there. And so I'm still growing my confidence. I'm still trying to figure out my groove with this and just trying not to be so hard on myself as I am learning. So we kind of had an interesting week. So I'll start with a weekly recap of everything that happened. We had an ice storm a couple days ago. We lost power. And so what I will say is you really just don't appreciate everything you can do with power until you lose it for over 24 hours. Okay. I'm sure you guys aren't at all surprised. I am not one who is fit for survival if there is no power. I need running water. I need to be able to flush the toilet. I need to wash my face. So it was kind of a struggle, but we got through it. And I think what also just made it so stressful is that I am in the thick of finishing my last grad school class. And so, of course, I didn't have internet. I have 4 weeks left in my class. It's accelerated. It's 7 weeks long. It is making my life a living hell. Cannot wait to be done with school. And I will be done in a month. And I am going to throw a large party when I'm done, and y'all are invited. And so it was a stressful week. And so with that, I am actually celebrating today's recording, drinking a little drinky poo Smirnoff, red, white, and blue. And so I hope that no matter where you are, I hope that you have a drink that you enjoy. It doesn't have to be alcoholic, of course. But cheers to us. And it is Friday. Happy Friday. Actually, you're probably listening to this now on a Thursday. So you'll be listening to this about a week from now, depending on what time you stream. But I'm grateful for you guys. And yeah, I hope that you are having a great week. So I thought what would be fun for today's episode is sharing things that I would share with my younger self. And so this is really going to be geared towards those girlies in your 20s, okay?
And honestly, a big part of my inspiration for this episode is my former high school students. Shout out to those of you who are listening. I know a couple of you are, and you are in your early to mid 20s. And I don't know, I just think often there's so many things I would go back and tell myself. And my 20s were such an impressionable age. And now, as I'm entering sort of my mid 30s, I don't know, I guess early to mid 30s. I'm going to be 33 this June, which is such an uneventful age, by the way. So I don't really know what you would characterize that as. But yeah, I just thought it would be fun to talk about what have I learned throughout the years and what would I share with my younger self. And if you are following this podcast, you will know that for my guests so far, I always ask them at the end, what is something that you would tell your younger self? And so I thought today I would make my episode about that and just chit chat about kind of what I've learned throughout the years. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start off by sharing what you guys said on Instagram. So this was actually a while back. It was before I even knew I was going to be doing this podcast. But on Instagram, I had asked you guys, what is something that you would tell your younger self? And so I wanted to read these first because not only were they fun for me to read, but I just feel like they're insightful. And this is just such a fun topic for me and something that's so close to my heart. So I'm going to read some of the feedback that you guys had shared on Instagram. What would you tell your younger self? Be you unapologetically. Don't worry about what other people think of you. You are the most constant person in your life. Fall in love with you. One person said sleep more, which I totally understand. Word. Another individual said do not get a credit card. LOL. Also not bad advice, at least until you learn how to use it responsibly. Someone else said, skip the credit card era, LOL, or have a very low limit. Do not let them increase it. I feel like you're probably speaking from personal experience. Having the right friends is better than having a whole bunch of friends. Absolutely. Do not be so hard on yourself and do not need to be perfect with everything that I do. Yes, I can relate to that, and that's actually something that I will be sharing a little bit about. Be true to yourself and don't try to be someone you aren't. You will make true friends this way. Absolutely. This one says, leave after the second red flag with a skull emoji. No matter how hard you try, you're not going to be for everyone, and that's okay. It will all work out in the end, whether you worry yourself to death over it or not. Just kind of reading some of that feedback that I got on Instagram. And like I said, I had posed this question. It was long before I started this podcast. Honestly, I think it was like a year ago, but you know how you can go back and you can see what you had in your stories or whatever. So I pulled that up because I was like, oh, it'd be fun to read those. But so let's get into my list. What are some things that I would share with my younger self? I have a list here, so I'm going to be going off of that. And these are really, by the way, in no particular order. I just am kind of rambling on about some things that I was thinking about. So, okay, first off, I wrote, stop living your life on everyone else's terms and stop worrying about what people will think about you. Whether it's your friends, family, your Facebook friends, the people on your social media, who gives a flying? This is your life for the taking. I can tell you guys that I have missed out on so many opportunities in my life and been afraid to take risks and try different things because I've been so paralyzed about what people would think about me. And I still struggle with that. And that is probably one of the biggest things that I'm still working on. I'm getting better at it, but there's still a lot of anxiety over that. And I'm not quite sure where that comes. I'm definitely a perfectionist, and I feel like I've just throughout my life always struggled to make my own decisions. And so if I've made a decision, I've always had to text someone, whether a friend or my mom, like, oh my God, what do you think about this? Like, do you think I'm making the wrong decision? And I just have never felt very confident with choosing the direction of my life. And so if I could go back and talk to my younger self, I would say, just make the damn decision and do things that make you happy. You don't have to live to everyone else's expectations. And if you fail, it's okay, because that is how you are going to grow. And I feel like for so long, I was so afraid of failing and making mistakes and just falling flat on my face. But looking back, the times that I quote unquote failed, which I feel like wasn't even failure, I feel like it was just like redirection in life. That's when I learned the most about myself. The first thing I think about when I think about like a time that I failed in my 20s is when I was in my undergrad and I had changed my major so many times, I think like 6 or 7 times. And I remember I was a business major and I might have shared this in the career episode of my podcast, I think, which was episode 4. So if I already shared this and you've already heard it, my bad. But as a business major, I had to get through accounting 101 and I couldn't pass that class. It was so goddamn hard for me. And I studied so hard and I still just, it wasn't clicking. Okay. And that was a prerequisite to get into the business program. And I could not pass that class. So that direction didn't work out for me. And you know what? It's okay because honestly, it was a redirection. I eventually found my path. And I guess I just want to encourage you that sometimes you are going to fail and try to reframe it as not necessarily failing, but like I said, a redirection, maybe a rebirth or just a pivot, right? Not thinking about Ross saying pivot, but yeah, so that's my thought about that. What else do I have? Hold on, take a little drink. Cheers. Okay. Don't stress about not knowing what career you want to do or if the path you're on is correct. Figure out what are you good at? What do people naturally come to you for? Like, how are you attracting others? Like, what are your talents? And lean into those strengths, gifts, and talents. And sort of alluding back to the example I just shared with being a business major. Okay. I never knew what I was doing with accounting or economics. That class was also really hard for me and hard to pass. But I have always just been very natural at building relationships. I have a high EQ, emotional intelligence, and reading people. And I have always been the person that people have gone to for advice or just to vent or looking for a different perspective. And I've always naturally been a nurturer, an encourager. I didn't really know what to make of that at the time, but now I realize it totally makes sense that I'm a therapist. Like I literally can't imagine doing anything but that. Again, having a platform because I just love sharing all the things about that. And so I would encourage those of you who are younger that if you are freaking out and stressing because you have no idea what you want to do, it's okay. You are going to figure it out. You don't need to know exactly what you want to do when you're 20 years old. It's going to work out. And the reason why it's going to work out is because you are going to try different jobs, different internships, different passions, and it's going to lead you in one direction or another. And that path, even if you're not quite sure what it looks like and you're not sure where you're going, the path is going to lead you to finding peace and happiness and, well, hopefully peace and happiness because you're going to find what is the best fit for you. And so I guess what I would say to my younger self is don't stress about it too much. Enjoy the journey. Lean into the things that are easy for you and maybe pay attention to the things that don't come as naturally for you, aka accounting and economics. Anyways, okay, next up I have there is room for everyone to succeed. There is room for all women to be successful. Being jealous of others or comparing yourself to others is wasted energy. And what I will say about this is, of course, it's totally natural to compare ourselves to others. And I feel like it's something that everyone does. And if someone were to say that they don't, like, that's bullshit, you're lying, because it's human nature. We all compare ourselves. We all have emotions, and that's okay. I feel like you can have emotions and you can naturally have thoughts of comparison, and it's what you do with that energy. And so what I can confidently say is the person I am now, I try to reframe things that there is room for everyone to be successful. And so if there is a woman who maybe on the surface at first, I feel this pang of jealousy, like, oh my gosh, she's so beautiful and successful and XYZ, she's so much further along than I am. Okay, but just because she's successful doesn't mean I can't be, right? Just because she is doing all these great things doesn't mean that I also can't leave my mark in the world. And so for those of you who maybe struggle with comparison, especially with other females, I would love if you could try to redirect that energy and shift it back to you, because what that energy is telling you is that you are struggling with some kind of insecurity where you are not feeling so great about yourself. And so it's easier for you to turn on that other woman and want what they have. And it's important that you kind of realize, okay, I have a lot that I bring to the table, and so does this person. And that's okay. There's plenty of room for all of us to be successful. And honestly, every single one of us wishes sometimes that we had something that someone else has, and that's okay. And it's natural. And so I just think about, like, especially when I was in college, I went to a university that was the most well-known in the state of Wisconsin for biology and athletic training. And so it was a mid-sized college. So there's about, I want to say there's like 13,000 students, including grad students, and around like 10 or 11,000 undergrad students. I felt like when I went there, it was like all of the athletes in high school, because so many people were there for athletic training and to be a physical therapist. And essentially what it came down to, there were so many beautiful girls there. And I remember just feeling so insecure and just so down on myself. I mean, that was over 10 years ago. And I'm obviously in a different place in my life and my confidence is higher, but it makes me sad. It makes me sad to think that I was just so insecure that I couldn't celebrate my successes and what made me unique. And I just was so hyper-focused on those other women. So yeah, I just feel like, remember that there's room for everyone to succeed. And just because someone else is successful doesn't mean you can't be. Okay, so next on my list, I wrote, I personally believe that being nice and working hard can get you many opportunities in life, and that these are quality traits that will really help you in the long run. Be a good person and genuinely try to do the best you can do. And that sounds really simple, but I have always felt like I'm a hard worker, and overall, I do feel like I'm a nice person. Probably sometimes too much, where I've let people walk all over me, but I do feel like those personality traits, just always keeping my nose on the grindstone and just being kind to other people, I do feel like it's helped me in life. And I mean, I just feel like if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all. And as an adult, when I do interact with others who aren't so kind to me, it's just like, okay, like, you're an adult. I'm really, like, I feel sad for you because you haven't figured this out yet. And I feel sad that you are in this place where you are so insecure that you have to put others down. And so, I don't know, just be nice and be kind and work hard. And I do feel like you're going to have more opportunities in life, whether it's work opportunities or moving up in the ladder, and also just attracting people who maybe are a better fit for you, whether it's relationships, friendships. You just can't go wrong with being nice and working hard. So simple, but I don't know, kind of like a core value. Okay, so next I wrote, if you don't create boundaries, you have no reason to be upset and to complain. This one is very much easier said than done. I suck at creating boundaries. It's probably the number one thing I should work on right now. Yes, mental note, I'm going to have an entire podcast episode about that. But again, going back to, I have let people walk all over me in my life. And I feel like I have spent so much of my life trying to make other people comfortable that I've never set my own boundaries. By boundaries, I mean, this can be so expansive. It's not just about like creating boundaries with friends or family members or those that you're in a relationship with. It can be as simple as, okay, I'm creating a boundary by taking my lunch today. Because some people don't take a lunch when they're at work and they're salaried. That was me. I never used to take a lunch when I worked at the school. And so then when I did start taking a lunch, it felt weird, like I was doing something wrong, but I needed to create that boundary for myself because I needed to take a lunch for my own sanity and my own mental health and well-being. But boundaries, the list is so expansive, like I said, of what that means, whether you are like staying true to your values and holding those firm to your heart when talking to friends and family members about things that are important to you, whether it's the way that you're raising your children or your political beliefs or the rules in your household. These are all things that I struggled with so much because I just struggled to have a voice. And kind of what I alluded to earlier is that it has always been hard for me to make decisions. And so what I've learned is that if you don't create the space for the boundaries, you can't be upset because you're allowing people to walk all over you and you're teaching people how to treat you. So I'll say that again. You teach people how to treat you. And that's something I have been really working hard to keep in mind. Okay, I'm kind of LOLing because this was back to what someone wrote in my Instagram Q&A, but save your money, don't get caught up in credit card debt, educate yourself on how to be smart with your money. Invest in a retirement plan early enough and put a little aside each month at a young age. Even if it's not a lot, it will add up. I've always been a psycho budgeter and I love money. I love creating a plan for my money. And this is something that I did not get into until my late 20s. And if I could go back, for one, I wouldn't have been a dumbass with the way I used to spend my money. I used to be such a spender, especially my early 20s, late teens. I mean, I feel like everyone in their late teens, kind of spends money because that's when you finally have money. But I just was stupid with my money. Sometimes I think, oh my God, if you would have just put even a little bit aside from the ages of 20 until now and never touched that and put it into a Roth IRA, which now I have, but I didn't have one of those until I was 26, things would be so different. Definitely, I would say if you're in your 20s, meet with a financial representative and just kind of get your finances in order. Even if you don't make a lot of money, that's okay. It's good to have a plan of where your money is going. Okay, kind of shifting gears, but I also put next, write in a journal as much as possible. I used to write in a journal a lot and then I stopped. So I was big into writing in diaries and journals as a little girl. I did it a lot in middle school and high school, and then I just never did in college because I never had time. And I didn't pick up my journal until a couple years ago. And recently, I went through my childhood journal. It was actually really interesting because I had a journal entry from 9/11. I was 9 years old at the time. But I wish I had journals from when I was in college, when I was in my 20s and just kind of going through it. And so I'm trying to get into that practice now. So I feel like that's obviously not like a super important, piece of advice, but it's a way to track your growth and it's a way to really remember kind of everything that you've gone through. Because if you're like me, the older you get, you're like, do I have dementia? Why can't I remember anything about my life? Hopefully that's not just me. Okay. But yeah, just, write in a journal and enjoy your life. And I think that's a way that I feel like that's a fun way that you can look back at your life and remember the stage of life that you're in. Okay. A couple more. I wrote, remember that you are your home. Remember that happiness comes from within and nobody can make you happy but yourself. Others can add to your life and happiness, but remember who the hell you are. Okay. This is important because no matter what relationship you're in, no matter what stage of life you're in, no matter what you're doing, whether you're working, you're in college, you're finishing high school, if you're finishing high school and listening to this, which probably this podcast should not be for you. But anyways, just remember that you are your home and that you don't need to rely on someone else to make you happy. You don't need to rely on someone else to be confident and to remember your worth. You are your home and you are your safety. And I mean that, and I really live by that. And that has been a guiding principle of mine. But I did not really hone in on that until my late 20s and 30s. Just finding that confidence within myself. I relied on so many other people to fill my cup and to make me happy for so long. And so if I could, I would go back and just really invest in myself instead of invest in others. Don't force things that don't align. Remember that broken hearts heal. All broken hearts, it takes time and it's painful, but you will get through it. I remember my first heartbreak. I was 19 years old. I was in this on again, off again relationship from about 18 to 20 years old, and this person was not a fit for me. Just, we were complete opposites. When it finally ended, which he dumped me, I was devastated. I was so devastated. I remember feeling like I wanted to die and that I was going to die. And if you've ever been dumped and if your hormones are ramping to that level, like when you're 18, 19 years old, I don't know if you guys can remember that, but it really hurts. You'll get through it though. Honestly, like I remember just how intense that was, but everything's fine now. It doesn't hurt anymore. You move on and time heals all wounds. And so you get through it. Don't judge other people. Just don't. The world is cruel enough as it is. We don't need your judgments. Remember that everyone is fighting a battle, and just to be kind to other people, because it's wasted energy if you're not. We all come from different backgrounds, and you really don't know what someone else is experiencing unless you walk in their shoes. And so just be kind and don't judge. Okay, I wrote, keep reading. Read as much as you can. It ignites your mind and your soul. And I believe that. I'm a big reader. I've always loved to read, and I also love TV, and I am not shaming those of you who love the TV, love the Netflix, but I also love to read. And I feel like reading has really just given me the opportunity to improve myself. And reading is just such a great way to expand your worldview and to learn things. And so whenever I don't understand something, I read about it because it helps me understand. And so I would share with my younger self, don't stop reading and just do it as much as you can and create time for it, even if it's just 10 minutes a day. And I feel like it's made me a better person. Okay, try to do as many things as possible and do it without feeling dumb. Put yourself out there and try new things, whether it's new hobbies, a new job, a new friendship, just anything. Put yourself out there, and even if it feels really awkward or uncomfortable, I promise it's okay. Like, it's going to be okay. I think back again to that insecure version of me when I was in college, and there's so many things that I wanted to try, but I was like, ugh, I don't have time for that, or I'm gonna look like an idiot. It makes me sad because that was the time to try these things, whether it was joining a class or intramural sports or just putting myself out there and like rock climbing, for example, or trying a different club. I wish that I would have had the courage to just go out of my comfort zone and do it, even if it didn't feel comfortable. I could have learned a lot, but I was scared and I didn't have that full confidence back then. So if you are listening to this and if you are in college, even if you're not in college, if you are working, don't be afraid to leave your job to try something else or to just totally get out of the path that you're on right now and try something different. And it's okay if it doesn't end up being like what you're going to be doing for the rest of your life. It's good to try these different things and to not have high expectations for yourself that you need to be happy there for the rest of your life or you need to be really good at it. This is the time of your life to explore and to get to know yourself. And you can't get to know yourself until you challenge yourself and put yourself out there. Okay, I have 3 more. Be kind to yourself, kind of a given, but I was and still am very hard on myself with my body image and confidence and all of that. Just be kind to yourself. Give yourself grace. Remember that accomplishing things does not equate to happiness. This is something that I have struggled with my entire life because I've equated happiness to moving up in life. And guess what? I have spent so much of my life moving up and accomplishing the next thing. And does it necessarily bring happiness? Maybe it's an instant dopamine rush because I checked something off a list or I'm like, oh, okay, I did it. But the joy is in the journey and the joy is just learning about yourself as you go. And so remember that accomplishing does not mean happiness and you need to be where your feet are and just appreciate the journey that you're on, and try not to rush it too, because I've been in a rush my entire life. I just rush from place to place. I'm very impatient, just quite literally. Like, I can't stand slow walkers, slow drivers. You know that song that's like, I'm in a hurry to get, yeah, like that's me. I've been in a rush my entire life. Just fucking slow down and stop and smell the roses is also what I would tell myself. Like, life doesn't need to be this serious and this hard. Just enjoy it, right? Okay, last but not least, loving yourself is a practice. There are times you won't always love yourself. Rely on your close friends, engage in self-care activities that make you feel good about yourself, and remember that this too shall pass. Because mental health, for me, it ebbs and flows, and it can be a give and take. And so when you aren't feeling the greatest about yourself, it's okay. That's when you need to give yourself a little bit extra love. So there's a million things I could have added to this list, and it was really hard to just kind of narrow it down to these couple things. And I'm sure I will think of things later, probably in the shower, because that's when I have all my great ideas. That sounds weird. But overall, if I could summarize all of this, I would tell myself to relax, enjoy the journey, put yourself out there. Remember that failure is actually redirection, and be kind to yourself. So I'm curious, what else would you add to this list? You can send me a DM on Instagram. I'm at Hot Girls Heal Pod or at Counselor Chels. I would love to know what you would add to this list, and I'm probably going to have a part 2 to this. I will get some more feedback on Instagram, what you would tell your younger self, because I feel like those are just fun to read and share. And yeah, we'll go from there. But thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode number 9 of Hot Girls Heal. And I appreciate you all so much for being here. It means a lot to me. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Can't wait to hear what the feedback is. And I look forward to chatting with you all again next week.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into today's episode of Hot Girls Heal. Please remember to rate and review the show and to share it with a friend to help us grow. Follow the show on Instagram and TikTok at Hot Girls Heal Pod. If you're interested in being coached by me, head to chelsearenee.com. Thank you again for the support, and can't wait to chat with you all next week.